Now, strict water restrictions come into effect for millions of Californians shortly as the west coast of America continues to experience a crippling drought.
California, the blazing land of America's west coast, is battling one of its most persistent and devastating enemies, drought. Rivers have dried up, fertile farmland has cracked into red dust, and the state has struggled for survival. Then a bold idea emerged: pull billions of liters of water from the Pacific Ocean, build massive desalination plants, use advanced wastewater recycling technology, and construct pipelines stretching hundreds of kilometers to revive a once dead land. Curious about the technologies powering this ambitious solution? Join Manatech explorers as we reveal how California is fighting the greatest water crisis in its history. If California were a country, its economy, worth over $3.5 trillion US, would rank as the world's fifth largest, and its agricultural sector produces 1/3 of America's vegetables and nearly 2/3 of its fruits and nuts. Yet this very agricultural giant consumes nearly 80% of all human-used water. Even though the state struggles to supply its own, geographically, California sits between the cold Pacific Ocean and the towering Sierra Nevada, which blocks much of the ocean's moisture. Most rainfall falls in the north, while the south endures a semi-desert climate. Over 60% of the state's natural water comes from Sierra Nevada snowmelt, a massive seasonal bank that feeds rivers and reservoirs throughout summer. But that cycle is collapsing. Snowfall has dropped 20 to 60% in drought years, and snowmelts weeks earlier. And now, in its worst drought in 1,200 years, major reservoirs like Shasta, Oroville, and Meade are at just 40% capacity. Americans couldn't wait for mountain water alone, so they turned to a nearly endless source, seawater. But seawater contains 3.5% salt, too much for drinking or irrigation, which led to the rise of desalination. Giant plants along the Pacific coast now convert millions of liters of seawater into usable water daily, reviving California's parched land and offering a virtually limitless supply despite the state's relentless drought. The first step in California's desalination process is to bring seawater directly from the ocean into the mainland, creating a continuous flow of raw water for the plants. To achieve this, engineers install massive intake pipelines made of carbon steel or large-diameter HDPE, often 2 to 3 meters wide, designed to withstand salt corrosion, water pressure, and ocean wave impacts. Each pipe section, stretching dozens of meters, is carefully lowered into place with heavy lift cranes, connected piece by piece using high-pressure gaskets and fully sealed welds. The entire system is then stabilized with steel frames and seabed anchors to resist strong coastal currents. Once in place, seawater flows through pipelines to open intake screens a few hundred meters offshore, where barriers and filters remove large debris and prevent marine life from entering. A 63-centimeter pipe alone can draw up to 15 million liters per day, over 10,000 liters per minute. Powerful pumps then push the seawater toward the desalination plant, initiating the transformation of raw seawater into usable, life-sustaining water. Even after seawater enters the desalination system, some uninvited guests, jellyfish, crabs, and occasionally small fish, can appear. To keep them out, massive screens block anything larger than 4.5 millimeters in diameter, followed by finer screens that remove remaining large particles. Yet the water still contains suspended sediment, which is removed through filtration in specialized tanks. Here, water flows downward through layers of sand using gravity, with tiny gaps that allow only water to pass while trapping suspended particles. The sand itself moves downward against the flow, collecting debris on its surface, leaving the water visibly cleaner. Despite this, countless microscopic particles remain. Anything larger than roughly 1/10 the thickness of a human hair is still present. To address this, large paddles stir the water as the plant adds 2 chemicals, sodium hypochlorite, a disinfectant, and ferric chloride, a coagulant. The coagulant binds the fine particles together, making them easier to remove in the next stages, further purifying the water and preparing it for the critical steps of desalination that follow. Next, waste particles clump together into larger flocks, which settle at the bottom of the tank, removing most of the dirt. though the water is still not clear enough for desalination. After passing through fine filtration, it enters the cartridge filtration system, the final line of defense before reverse osmosis. Each housing contains multiple cartridges made of tightly compressed fiber layers, with pore sizes as small as 1 to 5 microns. As water flows from the outside toward the center of each cartridge, microscopic particles are trapped between the fibers, while clean water passes through and continues onward. Saturated cartridges are regularly replaced by engineers to maintain maximum efficiency. At this point, the seawater moves to the most critical stage. Separating salt from water. Salt is difficult to remove because its ions cling tightly to water molecules through electrostatic attraction. To break these bonds, the system applies extremely high pressure in a process called reverse osmosis, where the true magic of desalination occurs, transforming seawater into fresh, potable water ready for use. The concept behind desalination is simple yet powerful. Apply pressure greater than natural osmotic pressure to force water through an ultrafine reverse osmosis (RO) membrane, leaving salt and impurities behind. To generate this immense pressure, the plant uses high-powered centrifugal pumps, with each component controlling a specific stage and gradually increasing the pressure as water moves through successive compression phases. The time water exits the final stage, the pressure reaches around 60 bar, roughly 60 times atmospheric pressure, strong enough to separate water from salt at the molecular level. After the first round of RO filtration, the water is almost entirely free of salt but still contains trace ions and microminerals that must be removed to meet drinking water standards. It then passes through a second RO stage, where finer membranes operate under lower pressure yet achieve even higher salt removal efficiency, reducing the water's electrical conductivity to extremely low levels and stripping out remaining ions. The final result is an ultra-clean, purified stream of water, ready for remineralization or direct distribution. After passing through the reverse osmosis membranes, the purified water is clean enough for irrigation, but its pH must be balanced before it is safe for human consumption. The plant adjusts pH by adding small amounts of acid or balancing solutions, bringing the water into a safe and stable range. RO desalinated water also contains far fewer essential minerals than typical drinking water, so a remineralization process adds minerals like calcium and magnesium to restore the natural mineral profile, improve taste, increase alkalinity, and make the water healthier and more pleasant to drink. Once treated, the clean water is transported through high-pressure pipelines to massive storage tanks within the plant, ready for irrigation or direct human use. From there, it is pumped into municipal supply networks or delivered to drought-stricken agricultural regions. While desalination is a technology of the future, it comes with high costs, often 2 to 4 times more than conventional water depending on location and operating expenses. Despite its advanced engineering and life-saving potential, many still question whether desalination is practical or sustainable for widespread real-world use. California doesn't rely on desalination alone to fight drought. The state has launched one of the most ambitious infrastructure projects in U.S. history, building a vast network of dams, reservoirs, and man-made aqueducts stretching hundreds of kilometers, powerful enough to reshape the destiny of an otherwise dry region. It all begins in the Sierra Nevada, where winter snow accumulates meters deep. When summer arrives, the melting snow produces a precious flow of freshwater. Instead of letting it rush to the sea, engineers built massive dams like Shasta, Oroville, and Folsom, creating reservoirs with a combined capacity of tens of billions of cubic meters, water banks that protect California through every drought cycle. From there, water travels south via the Central Valley Project and the State Water Project, with the California Aqueduct as their backbone. This nearly 700-kilometer artificial waterway cuts through valleys, crosses deserts, and climbs mountains, with giant pumping stations pushing water more than 600 meters up steep terrain, ensuring that even the driest regions receive life-sustaining water. The water is then distributed through a vast network of reinforced concrete pipelines and branching canals, reaching every city, farm, and industrial zone. Delivering each cubic meter of water comes at a steep cost, tens of billions of dollars in construction. plus billions more each year for electricity and maintenance. Many areas have had to raise prices for household and agricultural water just to keep the system running, yet this very water highway is now opening a new future, combining mountain water with seawater from coastal desalination plants. The existing infrastructure seamlessly integrates multiple sources, transforming the network into the beating heart of 21st century water security. Thanks to its dams, reservoirs, and aqueducts, millions of hectares of farmland in the Central Valley, producing over 1/3 of America's vegetables and 2/3 of its fruits, now have a stable, year-round irrigation supply. Fields that once depended entirely on snowmelt can maintain production even during severe droughts, boosting crop yields and solidifying California's role as a global agricultural hub. Despite the high cost, this intricate system remains the backbone that allows California's agriculture to survive and thrive in an otherwise arid climate, securing food production and water resilience for generations to come. Alongside seawater and natural freshwater, California has built massive wastewater recycling plants to ensure that not a single drop goes to waste. These facilities provide additional clean water for cities and agriculture while reducing pollution entering rivers, lakes, and the ocean. The water's journey begins deep beneath the city in a vast network of underground sewers, where runoff from toilets, sinks, and industrial facilities converges. This immense, unpredictable flow carries shredded paper, plastic, wood, sand, gravel, and grease. To prevent clogging, treatment starts with rows of stainless steel bar screens, standing tall like the first gatekeepers, capturing large debris before the water continues through advanced purification processes. These mechanical grids trap large debris, from rigid plastics to scraps of fabric, ensuring the flow downstream remains unobstructed. In the primary treatment stage, wastewater that is passed through bar screens and grit chambers is directed into enormous settling tanks, often circular or rectangular, capable of holding thousands of cubic meters. These tanks act as temporary basins where the flow slows dramatically, allowing heavier organic particles such as fecal matter, food residues, and shredded paper to sink to the bottom, forming a dense layer called primary sludge. Meanwhile, mechanical skimmers move continuously across the surface, collecting floating grease and debris and leaving behind a clearer middle layer of water. This sedimentation process serves as the first line of defense. Once the water has passed through primary treatment, it enters the critical biological phase in aeration tanks. These massive concrete basins, several meters deep, are equipped with thousands of fine air diffusers. Tiny bubbles rise continuously, stirring the water column and supplying a steady flow of oxygen to support microorganisms that break down remaining organic matter. Within this oxygen-rich environment, billions of aerobic microorganisms come to life, consuming and breaking down the remaining organic compounds. These invisible workers tirelessly clean the water day and night. As oxygen fills the tanks, the activated sludge forms clusters called flocks, binding countless microscopic particles still suspended in the water. Once the water leaves the secondary settling tanks, it appears much clearer, yet countless microscopic particles and microorganisms remain. To remove them, the flow enters massive filtration chambers where layers of dark membranes, part of the microfiltration system, act as an ultrafine gateway, blocking bacteria, parasites, and the tiniest solids. The purified stream is then pumped under tremendous pressure into rows of white cylindrical tubes, the reverse osmosis (RO) modules, the heart of the system. Inside each tube, multiple layers of semi-permeable membranes, with pores hundreds of times smaller than a human hair, stop every molecule larger than H2O. Pressures inside the system reach tens of bars, many times greater than atmospheric pressure, driving a process both powerful and precise. By the time the water exits these cylinders, it has reached extraordinary purity, shimmering like liquid crystal. This is the decisive moment where cutting-edge technology transforms wastewater into water clean enough to drink. And that wraps up our journey with Manatech Explorers, exploring California's bold mission to reclaim every drop of water for the future. All the information presented here has been compiled from reputable sources, But if you notice anything that needs clarification or correction, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Join us in the next video as we continue uncovering the engineering marvels and innovative technologies that are reshaping our world, showing how human ingenuity meets the challenges of nature in extraordinary ways.